He turned into B Street around 3:30 that afternoon. He came from no place in particular, and he had no clear destination at the moment. This shuffling little nondescript, who had caused some concern among the mothers of the Flat Point area, an entirely logical concern, because his twisted body and ragged filth were translated easily into marks of latent viciousness. So they were naturally worried when they saw him walking their streets and sitting empty-eyed in their parks. Some of them felt a complaint was in order, but none went quite that far because they were all honest taxpayers, and neighborhood protection was up to the police. So the little man went his way, unaware of their low regard, the mute hostility simply not penetrating his consciousness. He lived on Garth Place in a windowless little cubbyhole, existing by grace of a tiny pension of some sort, a pittance that gave him means of survival. He had no one, and no one claimed him. Even his name was known only to the bank teller who cashed his monthly check, and then forgot him until the next visit. But it had not always been thus. Even though the little man himself could not clearly remember when it had been different, there was a picture of better and more vital days somewhere back in his memory. Bright days, but glimpses of them could be dredged up only by dint of great mental effort. And even then the memory bridge never quite took him back to the times before chaos always threw them squarely into the blur of that terrible brink of death business, from which great surgical skill had salvaged his life, but little else. So he'd stopped trying to remember, content now to live from moment to moment in the half-world of damaged mind and broken body. A not unpleasant life, really, because the sun warmed him on good days, and the Garth Place furnace was generous with its heat when the streets turned icy. Content because he was incapable of discontent, and that about summed him up. But on this particular afternoon a probing recall nudged him sharply. This occurred when he moved up B Street and saw 4 boys playing in the open basement of a burnt-out warehouse. A dangerous ruin, a second menace that had brought worry to the mothers of Flat Point. Fire had gutted the building some months earlier, so fiercely that nothing remained but the basement and a 3-floor brick wall, running thin and fragile along one side of the excavation. This wall should have been long since demolished, but a jurisdictional argument between 2 city departments had delayed the work, and until the dispute could be settled, read, "Danger, no trespassing," signs had been posted on the 3 open sides of the basement. But the 4 boys had ignored the signs with careless courage, and an urgent something stirred in the crippled man's mind. Something that told him he had once been a person of authority, that protection of the public had been a part of his work, warning the foolhardy still his duty. So, acting on this cloudy instinct, he straightened his bent back, frowned down into the pit, and called out, "Get out of that hole! What are you trying to do, get killed? Come on, get moving." The boys looked up in idle wonder. They'd seen the old bum before, roaming aimlessly through Flat Point, but they'd ignored him as not even a worthy target for the hazing, impulsive youth sometimes inflicts on the helpless. But this was different. He'd made sounds like a human being, ridiculous sounds, and they commented, "Dig the loudmouth swamp, you guys. Beat it, you crazy lush." "Is he for real, fellas?" "Let's find out."